It's time for a cup of coffee with Will and Chris at Slumberland Furniture. From Slumberland Furniture in Osage Beach, here are your hosts, William Holtz and Chris Schneider.
It's that time for this week's cup of coffee here at Slumberland at the lake. And Uncle Chris, we wrap up St. Patrick's Day. What a wild weekend at Lake of the Ozarks.
Boy, that's for sure. And what, the windy, crazy weather, the wildfires, it was nuts.
That, tornadoes across the state. Hey, we're going to talk about the toll bridge passes their state audit. Presiding Commissioner Skelton launches a defense fund online. Shawnee Bluff in the location they're at, no more. Lots of stuff going on. We hear from Ballparks National, GM, that and a whole lot more. But first, this from Slumberland at the lake.
Big spring deals, up to 50% off list prices during the huge spring home sale at Slumberland Furniture. Elevate your living room comfort for just $4.95. Get a new modern look for just $5.95. Or relax and recline for just $4.99. Add a classic upgrade to your bedroom for just $3.60. Plus, so much more, like up to 50% off during our big Sealy floor model closeout and totally free shipping with no minimum. Shop now at the huge spring home sale at Slumberland.
The lake has it all. The scenic outdoors, the incredible events, and of course the water.
But did you know 50% of all fatal boating crashes in Missouri last year involved alcohol?
Although we know the lake is all about having a great time, we also know what's most important to you.
So don't forget and always designate a sober captain ahead of time, so this summer won't be your last summer.
This reminder to drive safe, boat safe, brought to you by Price & Randall, injury attorneys.
All right, back here. And another reminder to drive safe, boat safe, especially as we're getting closer to boating season. And when you stop by Slumberland at the lake, make sure you tell them that Wild Will and Uncle Chris sent you. All right, so you saw the crazy amount of green over the weekend. St. Patty's Day was nuts. We were down there for the parade, the shuffle, all that. But really, the crazy thing over the weekend was Friday with the wildfires and then, of course, tornadoes across the state.
Yeah, and just the heavy, heavy winds, right? And the places that didn't necessarily get tornadoes, but I saw down there in Rolla, they got like a big tornado that rolled through there. And then around here, all those wildfires were popping up, the ones out by Max Creek and stuff like that, the ones right off of Highway 54. It was pretty nuts. You put out some video. You drove by, took some video of the fires. I thought that was great. That was amazing.
Actually, that was my mother-in-law, Carmen Martinez, who was down in that area, and she got the video and sent it to me, and we got it posted. But hey, according to Lake Expo, over 12 fires were reported across the Lake of the Ozarks on Friday, and from East Branch Road and Stanton Church Road in western Camden County, they were under evacuation for a while on Friday. The Emergency Management Agency Director, John Shepard, said the order was issued on authority of the Southwest Camden County Fire District, which they said those fires had gotten out of control, which personnel spread thin across the lake and the state for natural cover fires. And so Troop Highway Patrol F, they put out on their X, or formerly known as Twitter, these fires are starting to encroach on businesses, residents, and structures throughout the area. So that was a scary time for people that had no idea what was going to happen. Now, luckily, fast action and even in limited capacity, local fire departments were able to control the damage. According to the Southwest Camden County Fire District, they wrote on Facebook at 5 p.m. that if you see a fire within 100 yards of your home, you need to evacuate immediately. So, this is like unprecedented for us to see here at Lake of the Ozarks and for some of our local communities, right?
Yeah, incredible. And they say through Missouri, killed 12 people, leaving widespread devastation across 25
well, this is the tornadoes,
counties.
Right,
yeah. Okay. These are the tornadoes. 3 in Ozark County, 1 in Butler County, 6, these are the fatalities, 6 in Wayne County, 1 in Jefferson County, 1 in St. Louis. So damages assessed include Webb Creek, Bluff View, marinas. Did you see the pictures of that one marina that was just like crinkled up and everything?
Yeah,
it was horrible.
It was like right out of a movie as far as the scenes, and you saw people driving with as far as the fires, and then you had tornadoes and those winds were just nuts. And, parts of the airport were nearly affected by the fire.
Got real close. We got real close to Ballparks National, like right up on the edge of
that was like, and we're going to talk about Ballparks National here in the show, but that was like miraculous. You see like right up to the, the fencing.
Yeah,
down that hill.
Right there. Southwest Camden County Fire Protection District firefighters battled 4 major fires. We're told they were dispatched to 10 others that were offshoots of those because the wind was blowing so hard, right? The district reported over 500 acres burned, along with between 15 and 25 buildings or other structures that went down. So this was major stuff. Isn't it weird, all the wildfires we've seen this year? I mean, look, obviously Los Angeles, but South Carolina recently, I think Arkansas recently. We had them here last week. It's weird. This is a weird year for wildfires, man.
And I actually spoke with John Trell, who's the Rocky Mountain Fire Chief, and about the situation. And he said, the Sunday before, on the 9th, they had burned about 80 to 90 acres in a controlled burn, and that went, fared very well. But they said with the wind, the challenges they're up against is significant drought currently, right? Because we haven't had a lot of rainfall, low humidity and temperatures. When all that's paired with these high winds, it creates some very dangerous situations. And for Rocky Mountain in particular, on Friday, they had 3 different simultaneous ground fires at once. They were able to mitigate with no loss of structure, and they detected it early. But with a request for resources from outside the area, there was no help to be had because everybody else was also requesting, and Rocky Mountain, they had gotten requested to come help. They were unable. They said the help they got was from a California tanker, and here locally, California, and got help. But I asked, Chief Trail, what do you want our community kind of to take away from this? And he goes, these controlled burns, one of the things that we don't feel like we've done a great job of is educating the community on how to go about this. And he said, there's really 3 things. It's a threefold. He goes, the first thing that they recommend is any time that you're going to do a controlled burn, to make sure you contact your local fire department. Find out which district or department, would cover your area, just to let them know. He said, because the reason is if somebody sees you doing a controlled burn and they don't know it, they call the fire department. They send all 4 of their tankers and department out only to find out it's a controlled burn that's going well. Yeah. They've now limited their ability to help someone else. He said allowing the department, the fire district to know that there's a controlled burn greatly lowers the chance of having a catastrophic event somewhere else
they really can't respond to. Yeah, absolutely.
Second, he says, is always have a distinguished method available, like a ready, working, accessible, like hose and water. He goes, don't just think, I've got a garden hose at the house. If this gets out of control, he goes, I will be able to put it out. No, he goes, when you look at wind between 10 and 15 miles per hour, that's hazardous because embers start flying. He said, and then when you have less than 30% humidity, which we currently do, he goes, that is a very dangerous combo. And so right now, the department says their current need, honestly, is volunteers, all departments across the state of Missouri. And so I thought that was interesting. They said volunteers, not just to go out and fight fires, he said, but volunteers to help in other capacities within the fire rescue mission. He goes, normally they would have 15 to 20 on hand for any major call. Yeah. They've only got a pool in Rocky Mount of 15 volunteers. And so that's a big need, not just in Rocky Mount, but across the lake area. So I thought that was interesting in talking with Fire Chief John Trail. And I mean, they did a great job, but so many of our local fire departments and fire districts did a great job not to have any loss of life from the fires.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, from what I understand, a couple of those fires were started by people burning, like leaves and stuff like that. Now, that is ridiculously stupid that you're going out and burning on a stormy, windy day. Don't do that. I mean, if you're going to burn on a calm day. Sure. When it's not blowing. I mean, when I've been out burning leaves, like in the fall or the spring or whatever, even if there's no wind, those leaves, fly up and fly around, and you got to be really careful with all of that stuff. Hey, take that stuff seriously, because it is, I mean, around here with, as dry as it's been and as many trees and forests as we have, that can be a big problem.
Yeah, and not to downplay, anybody who, was affected, whether their business or their home or, pets, but it didn't look like any loss of life or any major structural loss for the
I did see
part.
There was a lady that, like Kayla Barb's home on Tumbledan Road was burned down. So there were, like we said, some several structures were burned down, including that house, and there might have been others. Hopefully not many, but that is catastrophic.
in other, local news, I saw from Lake Expo that the Lake of the Ozarks Community Toll Bridge, they had their final state audit just to make sure that they were doing what they were supposed to do.
How cool is that, man?
I mean, I consider that kind of an engineering and a municipal marvel, if you will.
I'm right there with you.
As far as it's really the only project of its kind in Missouri, and when you look at toll booths, plazas, bridges, whatever they are, they never go away. So what is the point anyway? Well, this actually, take you through the timeline. The Lake of the Ozarks Community Bridge Transportation Development District was formed in 1992.
Yep.
The bridge was constructed from 96 to 98. The bond refinancing was in 2012, and they made the final bond payment payoff date April 1st of last year. Of course, you'll remember the great ceremony we had right there at J.B. Hooks, and the audit was necessary to abolish the Lake of the Ozarks Community Bridge Transportation Development District. It was passed, and now they can officially toast a glass on what is, as I said, like an engineering and financial marvel.
Yeah.
Not just in the state, but like anywhere.
Those people, we met them at the closing ceremony last year when they turned the bridge over to MoDOT, and those people were amazing geniuses that put this all together and then got it done and turned it back over to MoDOT. But just think about it, all of those Portachima and all those communities right over there off the bridge wouldn't have been there if there wasn't a community bridge to get them right into Osage Beach, So, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even billions of dollars that they created by doing this bridge, not just helping us with transportation, but I liked some of the numbers, the year ending. So this is kind of the money that flowed through the toll bridge, right?
Which everyone's always interested in.
Yeah,
right?
I was fascinated. 4.76 million of toll revenues for 1 year, I think in 2023 maybe. Investment revenues of 4.34 million, bond payments of just over 8 million, and a payroll of $873,000. So, there was big money flowing through that toll bridge business there, and then they turn it right over to MoDOT. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and I wanted to note that one of the original members involved in kind of forming that and the mastermind behind a lot of that was Ed Pugh, and Ed actually passed away a couple weeks ago, and so this is kind of a toast to him as what he was involved in. So rest in peace to Ed Pugh, the legend, as I said, who passed away recently. But such a cool story to see, and as you know now, traffic is just booming through. The toll bridge has those temporary, stoplights, but that is not stopping people from going over.
It doesn't even really slow you down that much. We took those stoplights when we went over to the FCA dinner the other day, right? And there's like a minute you might sit there and wait or something like that, but it's no big deal. So it's really great. Of course, I'm used to Dallas traffic, where you got stoplights like that, you were stuck for 45 minutes. So here it's great, minute, two at the most.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So, hey, also worth noting, I talked about, St. Pat's over the weekend, which, was just well attended. It was nuts.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention real quick, we got that new Let's Chat segments, and we were looking at the best wings at the lake, so we're announcing our final two. It's been announced, and the next one that's out there that's kind of went nuts as they shared it to Lake Area Happenings was, what fast food place you want at the lake. So hey, if you want to get involved in those, let's talk and, and potentially be mentioned here in the show, make sure you go get involved. And I'm curious, what fast food place do you want potentially to come to the lake? Even though you don't do fast food.
I do now. I gave it up for a year because I had to, but man, I'm all over it now, baby. It's like, oh yeah. If I had my choice of fast food to come, I love Popeye's chicken or Church's chicken. They're both great. Love that. And there's, what is the name of that place? They had a chicken place when I lived in Los Angeles. El Pollo Loco. Great fast food chicken place, man. Oh, El Pollo Loco. That stands for the crazy chicken.
Nice.
In Spanish, and it's good. So if El Pollo Loco, another good one is they have in Nebraska, they've got kraut burgers, sausage burgers, German hamburgers.
And, with sauerkraut?
It's in there. I'm trying to think of what they call that, but it's so good. So every time we go back to Omaha, we have to get some of those. So,
sure.
Yeah, it's good
stuff.
Well,
a lot of people are putting a lot of things, and we've seen even some no fast food, we support local, and it's I'm set. I love the local places, and of course we've got McDonald's on every corner, so I'm fine, All right, so local follow-up, Presiding Commissioner Skelton, he actually launches a legal defense fund via Give, Send, Go to retain excellent legal representation. Of course, he didn't ask the county through the commission's office to foot the legal bill, but he has launched the legal defense fund, and I'm curious what you guys think out there, Presiding Commissioner. Of course, this all over the LPR situation that he had allegedly removed. Interesting, continues to be an ongoing. Now, it's his upcoming court date, April 11th, for that first hearing. It'll be interesting. It's right here in Camden County. So, but I'm interested to see what people think of, lots of people are donating to support Presiding Commissioner Skelton. I even saw one person, looked like Barack Obama had donated $250 on there, and it had raised nearly $10,000 as of Tuesday morning, time of recording Cup of Coffee this week. So,
yeah. And Ike said in his statement that he put out here, like you said, he said, I don't really, want the taxpayers to have to foot this bill. That's why he's doing this. But he said these flock cameras, these license plate reader cameras, are being challenged all over the country due to their no search warrant, incredibly invasive surveillance ability. If you do not believe the government should have a system of spy cameras around our county that monitor, inventory, and control every movement you make, please help out with my legal defense so I may continue to fight for your God-given constitutionally protected rights. Thank you very much. So a very good statement, I think, from Ike. It sounds like he's, getting ready for the battle there, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. It's tough when you take on the government,
Sure.
But I think something that might help him is that he kind of is in the government here in Camden County. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that turns out.
No doubt. And like I said, already $10,000 raised. The goal is $50,000.
Wow.
To retain the best, legal defense he can for this. But it'll be interesting. We'll keep you posted as this happens. Hey, other local news, I didn't even see anything about it till I saw Shawnee Bluff posted on Facebook, but I noticed over the weekend they announced that they're celebrating their final day at the current location in historic Mills Motel.
Yeah.
Right there. We love that location, great views, of course, but they're excited to move next door to their tasting barn and Studio Hill. If you haven't seen that, right there with the vines, that red barn-like building.
It's right. They're basically on the same property, just adjacent to us. But so apparently the Shawnee Bluff people didn't own the, what did you call it? The
historic
hotel?
Mills Motel. So they had leased it. I think they probably are attempting to or negotiating that.
Maybe.
But with owning the property next door and, all of the investment that they've made into the property, all that parking there, that tasting barn is beautiful. And they call it Studio Hill for a reason. You've seen that view right there. And it's worth noting, they're still open there. And then Riverbird in Camdenton Roach area, they're still there rocking.
There. That's gorgeous out there, yeah.
But big news that, I only saw on their Facebook page, so worth noting, Shawnee Bluff Winery.
I didn't know that until you told me. Right. So, yeah, that's kind of big news there.
All right, so an interesting headline, I don't know, I saw from KRCG 13, a new bill has been proposed to prevent the alleged non-human behavior at Texas schools, and it has the governor's backing in Texas. House Bill 4814 is forbidding unlawful representation of role-playing in education, known as the Furries Act.
Yeah.
It was introduced officially into the Texas House of Representatives by Stan Gerdes, who's representative from the 17th District. And it lists any behavior or accessory typically displayed by a member of the Homo sapiens species is welcome.
Human beings, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
like we have to act like humans. I didn't know that this was needed, but the prohibition extends, the prohibition extends to surgical or superficial means that are non-human. Things like tails, leashes,
So this
collars.
is in schools, right?
It's
talking about
preventing
in schools?
it. It's to prevent this.
Kids coming in and acting like they're animals and stuff like that?
Yeah, you've heard of the litter box stories and the people dressing up like cats. Fur article animal like ears, barking, meowing, hissing, or other animal noises not indicative of human speech, licking oneself, or using the litter box. This is actually word for word for passing stool, urine, or other human byproducts. And for any educator who would be caught encouraging or supporting these tendencies will be charged with child abuse, and the school district could be fined up to $25,000. Now, I didn't know this needed to be passed into law, because according to KRCG, no cases or districts had been found guilty, but this has to come from somewhere, right? Like, why would this be passed into law, and why would the governor be backing it?
Right. Well, it says there are no confirmed instances of surgical means being implemented, but there are reports of them, I'm sure. And I mean, I know this crazy stuff is going on in California, right? And
sure.
Probably Chicago, all the wacko, crazy blue cities and states and stuff like that. But I didn't realize they were having to deal with it in places like Texas and stuff like that. Kids showing up to school identifying as a dog or a cat or a, whatever. I even talked to a guy who knew of a person that identified a kid going to school as a mushroom. How do you identify as a mushroom? But this is out there, right? I mean, so unfortunately they have to do this kind of stuff, apparently.
I mean, there's a reason you aren't able to gamble or drink or serve in the military and things of that nature until you're of a certain age, right?
Yeah.
It's because you're not developed in certain areas,
supposedly,
maybe to make those choices. So
can't vote until you're 18.
When you're younger, you're more influenced, you're more impersonable. It just seems crazy if we could just leave the darn kids alone.
Yeah, well, and the fact that, up until recently, I think that has changed with President Trump and executive orders, but until then, I mean, they were letting 5-year-old kids decide whether they wanted to change their gender and have, gender surgery, and schools were not telling parents about this stuff going on. I mean, it's craziness that's out there.
Almost like you'd have to make it up for it to be real, but it's things that have been taking place. But I saw that was from KRCG and that they reported on that. And I'm like, man, in Texas, they had to put this, they're trying to get a bill passed to prevent this from happening. So there's reason there. I just found that to be crazy, but it is the day and age we're living in.
Yeah.
So over the weekend we saw, and actually early this week, we saw Ballparks General Manager Dallas March speak out. He actually put a letter out on his Facebook, and I thought it was well presented.
Yeah, it was very interesting, and I wasn't even aware that this was a problem, right? So we know, just a little background, that, in the recent elections, one of the former general manager of Ballparks National ran against the incumbent as the local area representative.
Yeah, and we're talking Jeff Vernetti and Dr. Lisa Thomas.
Right, and so there was some bad blood there, right? Sure. I mean, it was a well-contested race, and Jeff Vernetti ended up winning that against the incumbent. But apparently there's more bleed-over problem that is affecting Ballpark National, which is why the new general manager, Dallas March, put out this statement, and it was pretty fascinating.
And it just talked about how, because of the ongoing witch hunt, and I'll be honest, that's what we called it when we were contacted by, at the time, the incumbent Dr. Lisa Thomas and Osage Beach Mayor Michael Harmison about this grant and the problems with it. But it's been the same state as it has for about 7 months before they finally found out they were not reinstating the grant. And what that means is it's almost $3 million taken directly out of its federal funds from COVID, like literally federal funds that have to go somewhere that would have been going into Ballparks National, which is no doubt a tourism driver here at Lake of the Ozarks, right?
Yep.
And so for Dr. Thomas, who has now lost the election, to keep fighting and pressing and wanting to see this area that used to be her district not get this federal money that didn't come from somebody's pocket. It is federal money that has to go. It's going to go somewhere. Well, Dr. Thomas, you see now that they're claiming 27 kids from Max Creek were able to be employed and for all kinds of upcoming tournaments, and without them getting this grant reinstated, it looks like Ballparks National is going to be limited, have to make some cuts and be prevented. I do want to remind people, it really was not that close. For an incumbent who spent about $15,000, Dr. Lisa Thomas spent $225,000 on this election, and she got 40.59% of the vote. Jeff Vernetti got 59.4% of the vote. That, in voting election terms, is a landslide.
Yeah, it's a blowout.
So not only did she get blown out, but still not happy, apparently she is announcing a run for Senate for this district. And so I just want to remind people that this is what's going on, and our community, Lake of the Ozarks, is not going to get that grant to Ballparks National, whether you like it or don't like it. it looks like, the whistleblower. There was an article with St. Louis Dispatch, but let's not forget about what she's done for our constituents. And no one's gonna forget about the jet ski bill, right? The wave runner bill, like let's put patrol guys, water patrol guys in the back of a wave runner in the middle of a busy holiday weekend to keep everybody safe. Like that is what I'll remember her for doing for her constituents.
Interesting. So, and in this letter from Dallas March, the GM of Ballpark National now, he said, from the beginning of this process until now, I felt as though a certain former political figure actively worked against us, not for the sake of the community, but due to a personal vendetta against the park's former manager. This person's concern appears to be that this former manager still holds a 5% ownership in the park, which is why apparently there's still bad blood. He goes on to say, this coming June, we have a 5-day baseball tournament scheduled with 148 teams pre-registered, assuming that we would be getting the grant reinstated. This event alone would have generated nearly $300,000 for the ballpark and contributed at least that much to the local community through hotels, restaurants, entertainment, shopping. Instead of considering the greater good, political agendas stood in the way. Put very well there. Isn't it sad though? But I guess, true colors start to come out when you see things like this. If you're not working for the community, you're holding on to a vendetta, then you probably wouldn't have been a good representative for that community in the first place.
And the deal is, if it's an accounting error, like that'll work itself out, and that would maybe be why the DED didn't reinstate the grant. But if there was anything nefarious going on or anything nasty, there would be criminal charges, and that's not the case. And so that's where we've been misled in this, and it's just interesting that now the lake is the one that's gonna pay the price, and now Ballparks National, like, if you like tourism, we were just at the CVB dinner, we heard from our Lieutenant Governor, David Wassinger, talk about Lake of the Ozarks and the tourism driver, and it's like, there's no bigger tourism driver to Lake of the Ozarks, that puts more heads in beds than Ballparks National.
Yeah, I mean, that is huge. I mean, just listen to what he said, 148 teams from around the nation were scheduled to come here. That's 148 teams with 20 kids.
One 5-day tournament.
Yeah, with 20 kids on the team, and you got coaches, you got parents. All of those people are coming into the community because of Ballpark National, and because you've got a fight, between political figures.
Politics stink.
Oh, it is. It's dirty, nasty, ugly. And I told somebody the other day, it's too bad because it keeps good people out of politics because they don't like to be a part of all that crap. But we need good people in politics, that can handle that. So that's tough.
Hey, look, if you see this today, like the day it first starts airing on Wednesday, you still got time to fill out your Lake TV March Madness Bracket Challenge through ESPN. We've partnered with High Stakes Smokehouse in Osage Beach. We're giving away $750 in steaks or corned beef or beef tallow, whatever you want. Like, we are ready. We've already had quite a few people sign up. Yeah. So if you got in by the deadline, or if you're watching this, like I said, go do that. It's going to be pretty great, but I'm interested. Like, you believe Missouri got a 6 seed? We'll be playing Drake.
That's going to be a tough first round game.
And it may already happen, but I mean, Drake is like the greatest story in college basketball. Ben McCollum, he came from Northwest Missouri State, Division II, right here in Maryville, Missouri, won 4 national championships. First year at Drake in the Missouri Valley, they're like 31-3. They win their conference championship. I wouldn't be surprised if Drake beats Mizzou. I'm taking Mizzou to win it all, but if they do lose, I hope that it's Drake, because Ben McCollum and his assistant coach, Josh Sash, like, the greatest story not being told in college basketball.
Yeah.
Like, no one is talking about this guy, what he did at D2 Northwest Missouri State, like the greatest D2 basketball coach ever. And he's like 40 years old,
So I'm old and stupid when it comes to social media, so I need you to send me the link for that bracket.
I got you, and I got to do it today so you don't run out of time. All right, hey, you are running out of time to sign up for the Fun Runs, Bridge and Dam Half Marathon and 5K. The 5K is getting close, and that's like the things that guys like us could actually consider doing. Well, you're running out of chances. You need to sign up for that April 12th, and that's going to be fun. Are you doing the 5K?
I'm trying to talk Michelle into it.
Wait,
she's
your scapegoat.
So far, she's off the board. But I would walk it. I wouldn't run it. But I could walk that. That wouldn't be a problem. But I'm saying she's like, I don't think so. I'll try to talk her into it.
All right, very good. Don't miss the return of David Leatherbury in Weekend at the Lake this week, presented by Chris Lightco. Gonna be great until next week from Slumberland at the Lake, my friends. Thanks for watching this week's show.